Have you ever loved someone who was nothing but trouble? Find out what happens when this small-town farm boy falls for the one person he should probably hate. This is the story of Jamie and Tyler. The industrial dishwasher roared like an angry beast, steam hissing from the vent above it and turning the already stifling kitchen into a sauna. Jamie didn't mind. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a job. One of the few he could get fresh out of college with a shiny new agribusiness degree and no family land to stand on. He'd scrubbed enough caked-on gravy from ceramic plates to last a lifetime, but at least it was honest work. He hummed quietly to himself, an old Reba tune that his mom used to play in the car when he was a kid, as he fed a tray of glasses into the washer, its steel door clunking shut with a hiss and a click. Cindy burst through the swinging door from the dining room, balancing a gray bus-pan on one hip like a waitress turned warrior. She plunked it down on the counter beside him. "Thanks, Cindy," Jamie said, lifting an eyebrow in mock enthusiasm. "Always such a pleasure." She giggled, brushing her bangs out of her eyes with the back of her hand. "Aren't you hot back here? Just look at you. Soaked already." Jamie glanced down at himself. His t-shirt was plastered to his torso, outlining lean muscle and a slender waist, and his cheeks were flushed from the heat. He ran his fingers through thick, dark hair, pushing his bangs to one side. "No, it's practically spa-like," he said, smirking. Cindy lingered a second too long, biting her lip, before finally heading back through the swinging doors. Jamie shook his head with a sigh and loaded another tray into the washer. Out front, in the blessedly air-conditioned diner, Cindy grabbed a clean bus pan from beneath the counter. Dottie, queen of the truck stop, stood behind the register with a coffee pot in one hand and an eagle-eyed gaze on the place. "Oh my God," Cindy said under her breath, sliding the clean pan into place. "He is so cute, I can hardly stand it." Dottie gave her a side glance. "You talking about Jamie again?" "Obviously. Is he single?" Dottie poured a refill for a grizzled trucker in a booth. "I don't keep tabs on my employees' love lives, sugar. Maybe you ought to ask him yourself." Cindy blushed. "Maybe I will." The bell above the door jingled, and in walked Tyler Jones, 6 feet plus of worn jeans, work boots, and the kind of broad shoulders that made Cindy straighten her posture automatically. He didn't even glance at her. His blue eyes were tired, his jaw covered in a few days of sunlit stubble, his sandy blonde hair sticking up in a cowlick when he pulled off his cap. He looked like he'd just climbed off a tractor, which he probably had. "Mornin', Dottie," he said, resting his arm on the counter. "Can I get a coffee and breakfast sandwich to go?" "Of course, honey. You look like hell. You sleep any?" Tyler shrugged. "Farm's not going to run itself." Dottie called the order back to the kitchen, then gave him a warm look. "You need to take better care of yourself, Tyler. Your daddy wouldn't like seeing you burn out like this." He nodded but didn't say anything. With his coffee in hand, he headed back out to the lot to wait for his food. Out back, Jamie was dragging a trash bag from one of the parking lot cans, his t-shirt soaked, nearly transparent now, his skin glistening in the morning sun. Tyler spotted him, and something dark flickered behind his eyes. "Hey, kid," he barked. Jamie didn't look up. "I'm talking to you, kid," Tyler snapped, stepping closer. Jamie finally straightened, dropped the trash bag with a loud thump, and looked him square in the eye. "You know my name, Tyler. Use it." Tyler took a step closer, just enough for the scent of dish soap in Jamie to fill his nose. "I'll call you whatever I want to."
Jamie didn't blink.
"Kid," Tyler added smugly. Jamie laughed bitterly. "Damn, I thought I got rid of you when I left for college. But here you are, like a bad penny." "Yeah?" Tyler drawled, eyes narrowing. "Oh right, college." He spat in the dirt near Jamie's boots. "Guess that didn't work out too well, seeing you're here scrubbing grease off plates." Jamie's fists clenched. "Screw you, Tyler." Just then, the screen door slammed open, and Dottie's voice rang across the parking lot. "Tyler, food's up." He turned, stalked past Jamie, and walked back inside. At the counter, Dottie handed him the paper bag and glared like she was channeling the wrath of every grandmother who ever laid down the law. "I don't know what you've got in for Jamie, but while you're here on my property, you better behave yourself. He's a good worker, and good workers are hard to come by. So, I'd appreciate you leaving him be. You hear me, Tyler Jones?"
Tyler ducked his head like a schoolboy.
"Yes, ma'am."
He took the food and coffee and strode out the door.
Back in the lot, Jamie was tying up the last trash bag when the old farm truck revved its engine. Tyler reversed hard, did a sloppy three-point turn, and peeled out with a squeal of tires and a spray of gravel.
Jamie didn't even flinch.
"Idiot," he muttered, wiping his brow with the back of his wrist. The sun climbed higher over the cornfields, and the day rolled on, just another morning at the truck stop.
But bad pennies had a way of turning up again, and some stories, especially the ones soaked in history and heat, weren't done being told. If you're enjoying the story, leave us a like and consider subscribing to our Romantic Heart channel. It means a lot to us to know you enjoy our content. Now, on to the next chapter.
Chapter 2: Tea and Trouble. The dishwasher rumbled again, loud and relentless, steam wafting in thick clouds that curled around the overhead pipes. Jamie was elbow-deep in sudsy water, the sleeves of his t-shirt damp and clinging. He was back to humming that Reba tune, soft and low, like a secret only he knew. He scrubbed a plate clean, his arms moving on autopilot, but his mind was miles away. "Why'd you have to be so damn hot and sexy?" Jamie mumbled under his breath, not realizing he'd said it aloud until the sound echoed slightly off the metal walls. His voice got quieter, almost conspiratorial, like he was talking to a ghost. "And why are you such a dick, especially to me?" He paused, staring blankly at the tray of dishes stacked to his right, suds dripping from his fingers. Was it just him? Was Tyler a raging asshole to everyone, or did he reserve that special brand of cruelty just for Jamie? He tilted his head, letting memory flicker across his thoughts like a film reel. That time in 10th grade, Tyler had tried to stuff his head into a toilet in the locker room. No one stopped him, and Jamie had spent the rest of the day with wet hair and the scent of bleach in his nose. Or junior year, when Tyler stole his trumpet right before band practice. Mr. Parrish chewed him out for 5 minutes straight, while Tyler leaned against the wall laughing, twirling Jamie's missing mouthpiece between his fingers. Or senior year, the worst, when Tyler backed him into a wall in the hallway after school. No one else was around. He'd stood too close, one hand braced against the locker beside Jamie's head, his breath warm and sharp with chewing tobacco. Jamie had tried to push past him, but Tyler wouldn't budge. He didn't say a word, just stared, like he was trying to figure something out. Then he laughed, shoved him lightly in the chest, and walked away. Jamie stopped humming. He wiped his hands on his apron and muttered, "Yeah, I guess I was his favorite punching bag or something. Whatever, the guy's messed up." He picked up another plate, then paused again. "But you know what's really messed up, Jamie?" he whispered to himself. "You can't stop thinking about him. That's what's really messed up." He sighed, pressing the back of his wrist to his forehead. It was like this every time he saw Tyler. His stomach doing backflips, his mind racing, and his pride trying to talk him out of it. The worst part? It wasn't just anger. It was attraction too. Heat, pull, confusion. It sucked, being gay in Cluny, Indiana. No gay bars, no scene, just cornfields, hog farms, and the occasional rainbow bumper sticker that felt like a dare. Not that Jamie wanted to leave. He liked cornfields and hog farms. He liked this life, in theory. He just wished he had someone to share it with. A friend, a buddy, a boyfriend. Preferably one who knew the difference between kindness and cruelty. The swinging door banged open, and in marched Cindy, crashing through Jamie's lonely spiral with a fresh bus pan stacked with plates and a sweating glass of iced tea. "Here," she said, breathless and bright, holding out the glass of tea. "It's so hot back here." Jamie blinked as she handed it to him. The condensation ran down his fingers, cold and sharp. He took a sip and felt the sugar and lemon hit just right. "2 sugars and a lemon," she said, proud as if she'd just crafted a cocktail. "I know how you like it." Jamie blushed, his cheeks as pink as the lemonade she probably wanted to make with his heart. "Thanks, Cindy. That's thoughtful of you." She beamed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'd better get back. Lunch rush is starting." "Right. Go get 'em." As the door swung shut behind her, Jamie stared at the mountain of dishes waiting to be tackled. But he didn't move. Not right away.
He sat on a low stool in the corner, cradling the tea like a lifeline.
It was sweet and cold, and it wasn't calling him kid. And still, his thoughts slipped back, inevitably, maddeningly, to Tyler. To the way he looked in that moment, leaning into Jamie's space in the parking lot. Blue eyes stormy, stubble golden, voice full of venom. But under it all, something else, something almost vulnerable.
Jamie drank deep and sighed. "Damn it, Tyler," he whispered. "Why the hell can't I quit you?"
Chapter 3. Velvet Rope and Country Hope.
Jamie's heart was pounding before he even got out of the car.
The club looked like nothing, just an old brick warehouse tucked between two abandoned factories in a half-lit stretch of Indianapolis. There was no sign, no thumping bass leaking out onto the street, just a soft glow against the bricks and a velvet rope guarded by a man the size of a refrigerator in black jeans and a muscle tee. He almost turned around. In fact, he had his hands on the steering wheel halfway through a three-point turn when he caught sight of the subtle strobe flickering behind tinted warehouse windows. Something about it pulled him in. Maybe desperation, or just sheer stubbornness. He parked, got out, took a deep breath, and walked toward the rope. There was a line already, half a dozen guys deep, all of them looking like they belonged on magazine covers or in expensive cologne ads. Skin-tight jeans, mesh tops, perfect hair, like they all got the memo that Jamie clearly missed. He adjusted the collar of his short-sleeve button-down, Target, last year, and stuffed his hands in the pockets of his well-worn jeans. His boots were dusty. His hair was slightly sweaty. He felt like a cow who had wandered into Milan. The bouncer gave him a once-over, then a twice-over, then looked at his ID with something like disbelief.
23, huh? The man said, raising an eyebrow.
Last I checked, Jamie replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Another long look, then a hand stamp, a nod, and $20 later, Jamie was inside. The bass hit like a physical force. Lights flashed and twirled above the high exposed beam ceiling. The entire warehouse had been transformed into a single, pulsing, living space. A dance floor spread out beneath a massive lighting rig, people grinding and writhing beneath it. Along one brick wall stretched a sleek, backlit bar. Opposite that, a lounge area with low leather sofas, mood lighting, where guys leaned in close, laughing or kissing. Jamie took a breath, then another, then made his way to the bar like a man walking into battle. He slid onto a stool, trying not to look too out of place, and looked up just as a shirtless bartender appeared. The guy was stacked, broad shoulders, sculpted abs, cowboy hat and all. It felt a little like a mirage, or a very specific fantasy.
"What'll it be?" the bartender asked.
Beer," Jamie said, then added, "Whatever's cheap."
The bartender gave him a smirk. "Nothing here's cheap, sweetheart, but I'll find something that won't bankrupt you." Beer in hand, Jamie turned to face the room. Bodies pressed together on the dance floor, lights sweeping over bare chests and tight smiles. The whole place felt like another planet, sexy, electric, and utterly overwhelming. He sipped his beer and tried to look like he belonged. He didn't, but he tried. By the time he was almost finished with it, he'd nearly made up his mind to leave. Chalk it up to experience, take the L, drive back to Clooney with his tail tucked between his legs. At least he could say he'd tried. And then, just like that, a guy sat down next to him. Sandy hair, bright blue eyes, sharp cheekbones softened by a crooked grin. He looked maybe late 20s, well-dressed without trying too hard, wearing a black Henley, fitted jeans, the faintest trace of stubble. Jamie barely had time to clock him before the guy spoke. "Hey, you look a little lost. First time at the club?" Jamie turned and gave a half smile. "That obvious, huh?" The guy chuckled. "Well, you're holding on to that beer like it's a flotation device." Jamie glanced down at the bottle in his hands and smirked. "Feels like I'm drowning a little." He held out a hand. "I'm Owen." Jamie shook it, surprised at how warm and solid Owen's hand felt in his.
Jamie.
"Nice to meet you, Jamie. Let me buy you another beer."
Jamie hesitated.
"You don't have to do that." "I know. I want to."
Jamie opened his mouth to argue again, but then remembered how much he'd paid for the first one and how much gas it took to drive 2 hours for this entire experiment. He also remembered student loans, his crummy apartment over the bakery, and that truck stop mop closet he called a break room.
Okay, thanks, Owen. I appreciate it.
Owen flagged the bartender and ordered 2 more beers without even asking Jamie's preference. Jamie didn't mind. He was still watching Owen, still taking in the quiet confidence, the easy smile. There was something familiar in the shape of his shoulders, the color of his hair, something Jamie couldn't quite place.
You from around here? Owen asked as their drinks arrived. No, I live in Clumy. Clumy? Owen laughed. That's like, what? 90 minutes away?
Something like that.
And you drove just to come here tonight?
Jamie shrugged.
I needed to get out, away from stuff.
Owen raised an eyebrow, interested. Jamie found himself talking before he could stop it.
Work sucks. The town sucks. There's nobody there I can talk to. I've got this degree in agribusiness, but my family doesn't have land, so I'm scrubbing dishes at a truck stop and trying not to lose my mind.
It spilled out fast. Too fast. Jamie flushed as soon as the last word left his mouth.
Wow, he said. Sorry, that was a lot.
Owen didn't blink. Hey, don't you worry your pretty head about it. I gotcha, okay? Jamie blinked. Something about the way Owen said it so gently hit him deep. No hint of pity or mockery, just kindness. And damn, Owen was good looking. Older, sure, but Jamie liked that. Sandy hair, easy smile, blue eyes that looked a little too much like Tyler. God, why did his brain have to do that?
Where'd you go to school? Owen asked, bringing him back. Indiana State. Sycamore through and through, Jamie said, managing a smile. You? Same. Go trees, Owen said sarcastically. I'm in real estate now. Been doing well. Just sold a place out near Cluny, actually. A small farm, older place, but real nice. Got $300,000 for it. Multiple bids.
Jamie blinked.
Was that the Henderson place?
Owen snapped his fingers.
Yeah, that's it.
Jamie shook his head. Awed. That's like right near where I grew up.
Small world, Owen said, sipping his beer.
Jamie nodded and tried not to look at Owen too long, even though it was really hard not to. Owen ordered 2 more beers without asking. His mind was boggled. First off, that farm was right near Tyler's and it sold for that much? Secondly, the sale commission had to be something like $30,000 into Owen's pocket, just like that.
I think I chose the wrong career, was all Jamie could say. Well, it's not always about the money, Owen reassured him. A guy has to like what he does to really be successful. You're young. You'll find a good situation for sure. I hope you're right, Jamie said.
Then he added,
Excuse me, gotta take a whiz. Man's room's over there, Owen said, pointing to the far wall.
Jamie went to get up and the room spun and he sat back down. Owen immediately saw the problem.
Hey, I'll help you, he said, offering his arm as support. Jamie gladly took it. The bathroom lights buzzed overhead as Jamie splashed cold water on his face, hoping it would sober him up, or at least settle the dizzying mix of beer and adrenaline swirling in his head. He looked up and saw his own reflection staring back. Flushed cheeks, damp hair curling at the edges, but his eyes, brown with flecks of gold and green, eyes that usually looked quietly hopeful, now looked a little lost. Owen stood behind him, arms crossed, watching with a casual concern. You good? Jamie wiped his face with a paper towel, then nodded too quickly. Yeah, I just guess I'm not used to drinking much. Owen chuckled. You're not the first and you won't be the last. Jamie blushed again, which was fast becoming a theme for the night. Owen came closer, resting a hand on Jamie's lower back as they exited the restroom. Seriously, let's get you out of here. You don't want to be on the road like this. I've got a guest room at my place. Couch if you prefer. No funny business. Jamie wasn't sure if the flutter in his chest came from the idea of funny business or from relief at someone actually offering him help without making it weird. Either way, he nodded. Okay. Yeah, thanks. They talked to the club manager, a sharp-eyed drag queen with a clipboard and a headset, who promised Jamie's car would be fine overnight. Sugar, I've got the license plate logged. If anybody even sneezes near it, I'll know. Jamie mumbled thanks and followed Owen to the parking lot. The night air was a little cooler now, cutting through the alcohol fog and giving him just enough clarity to realize this wasn't how he thought the night would go. Owen's car was a sleek black SUV, spotless inside. Jamie sank into the leather seat with a grateful sigh. Owen didn't put on music. The quiet felt like a kindness. "Nice ride," Jamie said after a few minutes, breaking the silence. "Thanks. It's the one real luxury I let myself have." Owen shot him a small smile. "Helps with clients, too." They drove through the empty downtown streets and then further, into the neighborhoods. Row houses, trees lit by street lamps, sidewalks scattered with porch furniture and pride flags. Owen's apartment was on the top floor of a 3-story walk-up. He unlocked the door and ushered Jamie inside. It was clean, warm, and lived in. Exposed brick walls, plants in the windows, framed art on the walls that looked like originals. Jamie blinked as he took it in, a little dazed, a little awestruck. "You can crash in here," Owen said, opening a door off the hallway. Spare beds made up, bathrooms right across. Jamie wandered into the guest room and sat on the edge of the bed. His head was starting to clear, but he still felt wobbly, emotionally more than physically. He tried to escape his small-town blues with a wild night out, but the guy who'd ended up taking care of him reminded him of the very person he was trying to forget. Sandy hair, blue eyes, a touch of stubble. But Owen was nothing like Tyler otherwise. Owen was kind and attentive. Jamie sighed and rubbed his face. Owen appeared in the doorway with a glass of water and some Advil. "Here, you'll thank me in the morning."
Jamie took it gratefully.
"You're like absurdly nice," Owen laughed. "I have my moments." Jamie hesitated, then said, "You kind of remind me of someone." "Oh?" Owen leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Yeah, someone I grew up with. Well, not like him. He was not nice. Just the same eyes, same build. But where he'd pin me to a wall for fun, helping you into a bed, not into trouble," Owen finished, smiling. Jamie nodded, suddenly tired. "Exactly." Owen lingered a second longer, then said, "Sleep. We'll grab breakfast in the morning, get you back to Clooney. Sound good?" "Yeah. Thanks, Owen." As Owen turned out the light and shut the door, Jamie lay back and stared at the ceiling. But as his thoughts started to slip into sleep, a familiar face crept back into his mind. Tyler, sweaty and furious, in the truck stop parking lot, blue eyes burning with something unreadable. Jamie groaned and turned over. "Forget him," he muttered into the pillow. "You've got to forget him." But even in the dark, he wasn't sure which him he meant anymore. Chapter 4. Mornings and Maybes. Jamie woke with a start, heart thudding like he was late for a final exam. The ceiling above him was unfamiliar, painted a soft gray, and it took a full 3 seconds before his foggy brain caught up.
Not home. Andy. Club. Owen.
"Oh shit," he said aloud. He sat up and instantly regretted it. His head split with a bolt of pain, sharp enough to make him wince. His stomach turned, threatening rebellion. He grabbed his phone off the nightstand and blinked at the screen. 7:03 a.m. Shit, he muttered, scrambling upright and stumbling toward the bathroom in case things got worse. He hovered over the toilet, bracing himself, but nothing came. Just nausea and that awful dry, cotton feeling in his mouth. Still dressed in nothing but his underwear, he sat on the edge of the bathtub, trying to breathe through the hangover. He was supposed to be at work in less than an hour. Shit, he said again, like swearing was a spell that could somehow rewind time. There was a knock at the door. "You okay?" Owen's voice was soft, a little amused, but not unkind. "Yes. No," Jamie called back. "I'm supposed to be at work in an hour." "Uh-oh," Owen said. "You better call." Jamie ran a hand down his face. Right. Yes. Call. That was a thing he could do. He grabbed his phone, took a breath, and dialed. 1 ring, 2. "Clooney Travel Plaza. This is Cindy." Jamie exhaled through his nose. "Thank God." "Hey, it's Jamie. Listen, I'm gonna be late. Should be there by 10. "Oh no. Are you okay?" she asked, concern dripping from her voice. "Yeah, just something came up. I'm fine, really." "Okay, I'll let Dottie know. Drive safe." Jamie hung up and let out a shaky laugh. Crisis delayed. Not averted, but at least postponed. He took the world's fastest shower, cold by necessity not choice,
and then realized with mounting dread that he had no clean clothes. He'd come straight from Clooney in the same jeans and tee he wore all day. Wrapped in a towel, dripping and half-dazed, he stepped into the kitchen. Owen was there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, sipping coffee and scrolling through something on his phone. He looked up and nearly spit out his drink. Jamie's torso, flushed from the cold water, looked like it belonged in a museum. Lean, sculpted, skin smooth and glowing. Owen looked away fast, color blooming in his cheeks. Jamie said, sheepish, "You got a t-shirt I could borrow? I didn't exactly plan on staying the night." "Yeah," Owen said, already up and heading to the bedroom. He returned with a soft, faded blue tee with a logo from some indie brewery on the chest and handed it to Jamie like it was a sacred object. Jamie pulled it on without hesitation. It was a little big. It smelled like laundry and Owen. "Perfect." "Thanks," Jamie said, tousling his damp hair and suddenly aware of just how domestic this all felt, with the coffee brewing, toast popping, the two of them moving around each other like it wasn't the first time. "I made you dry toast and poured some coffee to go," Owen said, voice still a little hoarse. "Didn't know what kind of stomach we were dealing with."
You're a saint.
"No, I just know hangovers." By 7:30, they were in Owen's BMW, slicing through the early morning city streets. Jamie leaned back in the seat, toast in hand, watching the skyline shrink behind them as they sped toward the warehouse district. "You really saved my ass last night," Jamie said between bites. "Seriously, I don't know what I would have done without you." "I'm glad I could help," Owen replied, gripping the wheel with one hand, coffee in the other. "It was nice meeting you, even if it started with you almost passing out at the bar." Jamie laughed softly. "Yeah, not exactly the dream first impression." "I don't know," Owen said, glancing over. "I thought it was kind of cute." Jamie turned his face toward the window, hiding the smile that curled on his lips. When they pulled into the parking lot beside Jamie's dusty car, there was a beat of hesitation. Jamie reached for the door handle, then paused. "Listen, I really appreciate all of this. I mean it." Owen nodded. "Could we exchange numbers? I'd like to see you again." Jamie blinked, then grinned. "Really? Sure." They swapped phones. Numbers quickly entered and names saved. Owen leaned in and gave Jamie a hug. It was quick, but warm, arms strong around his back.
Good luck at work, Owen said. Thanks. I'll meet it.
Jamie slid out, climbed into his car, and rolled the window down.
I'll text you, he called. I hope you do. Then they pulled away from each other, their paths diverging for now, one back to the city, the other to the cornfields of Clooney. But something had shifted. Jamie felt it deep in his chest, somewhere below the caffeine and toast. A door had opened, a real one, and for once, it wasn't Tyler's face that lingered in his mind. It was Owen's. Chapter 5. Humble Pie and Hard Choices. Summer was speeding by, the fields painted in deep greens and crowned with golden tassels. It was nearly August, and the corn was shoulder high. The mornings were sticky, the evenings heavy with the scent of cut grass and distant rain. Clooney rolled on with its usual quiet rhythm, trucks rumbling through and harvests ripening. After that chaotic weekend in Indy, Jamie took Dottie's words to heart. She'd given him a firm but caring lecture when he stumbled in late that Sunday morning, her eyebrows raised like warning flags. If you're going to cut loose on Saturday night, maybe don't schedule yourself for Sunday morning, sweetheart, she'd said, arms folded and voice just stern enough. It wasn't just about work ethic. She wanted him to take care of himself. And for once, Jamie listened. He didn't regret it. Things with Owen were good, better than good. They texted every day, easy conversations that made Jamie smile down at his phone like a teenager. The next time he made it down to Indianapolis, Owen took him out to dinner, a little Italian place tucked away in Speedway, and this time, Jamie had Sunday morning off. No panic, no rushing, just slow sips of wine and laughter under string lights, Owen's hand brushing his across the table. Jamie hadn't thought about Tyler in weeks, a flicker now and then. Memories had a way of surfacing, but they didn't haunt him like they used to. Owen was real and present. Tyler was in the past, or so he thought. It was a Tuesday morning, hot already by 8 a.m., when Jamie heard the door chime jingle at the truck stop. He didn't look up right away. He was prepping eggs in the back, but he heard Dottie ring someone up,
the tap of the register, and then silence. And then a voice. Familiar, low and ragged.
Tyler.
Jamie peeked through the kitchen window. Tyler wasn't leaving like he usually did, grabbing his breakfast sandwich and bolting. No, he was sitting at the counter. That alone was enough to raise eyebrows.
"You look like someone beat you down with a stick," Dottie said, breaking the silence. Her tone was soft but direct, the way it always was when she sensed something fragile.
Jamie couldn't hear everything, but he saw Tyler try to lift his coffee cup and fail. His hands were shaking. That sent a pang through Jamie's chest, no matter how much he didn't want it to. After a moment, Tyler finally spoke, and even though the words were low, Jamie caught most of them.
"I don't know what I'm doing, Dottie. I'm not a businessman. I know about growing corn and raising hogs, but the farm's a business. I never was too good in school, and I can't make sense of it. I'm afraid I'm running it into the ground. What if I lose the farm?"
That stopped Jamie cold.
"You're a good businesswoman. I can pay you," Tyler said, desperation creeping into his voice. "Just to look over the books? Show me how to do it?"
Dottie didn't answer right away. Jamie saw her lips pressed together, her mind working. Finally, she said, "Well, Tyler, I'm not sure I can help you out. I've got more than I can handle here." Jamie figured that would be that, but then came the words that made his stomach twist.
"What about Jamie? He's got a degree in agribusiness. He'd know exactly what you need."
Jamie turned away from the window. No, 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 he muttered. "Don't drag me into this, Dottie." "I can't ask Jamie," Tyler said. "I teased him way too much. He hates my guts anyway."
"Well, Tyler," Dottie replied dryly, "our actions have consequences. I think you should ask him anyway, but you better be sure to serve it up with a heaping side of humble pie."
Jamie turned back just in time to see Tyler grimace and nod.
"What the hell? I'm desperate. Is he here?"
Dottie didn't miss a beat.
"Jamie!" He wiped his hands, took a breath, and stepped out of the kitchen. The second he saw Tyler sitting there, hair disheveled, coffee untouched, blue eyes deep with worry, his guard shot up.
"Yes, Dottie?" he said wearily. "Jamie, honey, Tyler here has a proposition for you."
That bio returned fast. Jamie turned to go.
"Wait, please, Jamie."
Jamie froze. That voice, pleading, not a tone he ever associated with Tyler. Slowly, he turned.
"I know I've been a dick to you," Tyler said. His voice cracked a little. "I know you hate my guts, and I can't blame you. I know I messed up, but running the farm, I've grown up a little bit, and the way I treated you, it wasn't cool. I'm gonna try and do better."
Jamie narrowed his eyes. He didn't trust it, not yet, but he stayed.
"And about the farm," Tyler continued, eyes now downcast, "I need help. I don't know anything about the business end, and I'm making a mess of things. I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. You have that degree in agribusiness. Would you consider a job? Handling the accounting, the legal stuff? I'll pay whatever you ask. Set your own hours. You can keep working here if you want."
Jamie's head said no. Run. But his heart saw the boy who grew up on that land, who used to climb the silo like it was a jungle gym, who loved the soil like it was kin. Jamie couldn't bear to see the farm go under, couldn't bear to see Tyler suffer like that. After a long pause, he said, "Okay, how about you pay me for a consult? I'll come out, look at your books, and see what's what. I won't promise anything more until I know where things stand."
"You'd do that?" Tyler asked, like he couldn't believe it.
"I just said I would," Jamie replied coolly. "But strictly business. You pay me, I do the work." Tyler stood and offered his hand. Jamie hesitated, then took it. The contact sent an electric jolt through him. His knees went a little weak. Business or not, touching him still did that. They let go quickly. Tyler nodded, almost reverently.
"Thanks."
Jamie turned back toward the kitchen, heart thudding with 1,000 conflicting feelings. Dottie caught his eye as he passed. She smiled, just a little. "Proud of you, baby," she said under her breath. Jamie didn't answer. He didn't know if this was going to be the best idea he ever had, or the worst, but he was already in it. The corn grows shoulder high in August. Bad pennies turn up. Have you ever said yes when you knew was a bad idea? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Chapter 6. Wires, Whiskey, and Walmart.
The hum of the ancient PC was starting to sound like a growl.
Jamie sat stiffly in what used to be the dining room of Tyler's old family farmhouse, now an improvised office space that looked like it hadn't seen a dust rag, or a system for that matter, since at least 2010. The long oak dining table, probably heirloom-worthy in another life, was shoved up against the wall and buried under a haphazard mess of mail, half-drunk coffee cups, balled-up receipts, and dog-eared invoices. A couple of rusty file cabinets leaned against one another nearby, looking as if they'd come from a church rummage sale, and the whole place smelled faintly of mildew, old paper, and livestock. Front and center was the PC, a true relic. Jamie felt like he needed to whisper prayers into the floppy disk drive. Every action came with a long, agonizing delay, and the version of Excel running looked like it had survived the Y2K panic. He wasn't even sure it was still supported. He peered closer at the spreadsheet on screen, his heart sinking. There were maybe 20 entries, random, sporadic, some undated, and most with no category or context. Jamie glanced at the invoices spread across the desk. A mountain. This wasn't bad bookkeeping. This was financial neglect. Tyler had gone out to tend the hogs with the farmhands, leaving Jamie alone with the mess. He didn't mind the quiet. In fact, he welcomed it. The place may have been a disaster, but it was the kind of puzzle Jamie knew how to solve. He started sorting. One pile for feed, one for utilities, one for equipment. He found a manila folder labeled tax stuff with a scribbled question mark that made him laugh. At least the man was self-aware. But God, the data entry was murder. The computer wheezed with every click, like it was trying to lift a truck. By the time the screen door creaked and Tyler stepped back inside, the sun had swung around and bathed the old linoleum floor in a soft amber. Jamie had half a dozen invoices entered and 2 paper cuts. "How's it going?" Tyler asked, stepping in close to peer at the screen. Jamie didn't answer right away. Tyler was too close. Jamie could feel the heat from his body and the brush of his shirt against his back. There was the usual scent of hay and chewing tobacco on his breath, but something else, too, sharp and smoky.
Whiskey? And still, God help him, Jamie's body reacted the way it always did when Tyler got near. A flutter low in his stomach, a pulse quickening, the worst kind of reflex. Tyler leaned in further, one hand landing lightly on Jamie's shoulder. Jamie flinched. It was small, but real. Tyler backed off fast. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you." Jamie exhaled through his nose, trying to clear his head. "It's just proximity," he told himself. "It's just old habits." He turned in his chair and looked up at Tyler. "Listen, you're way behind in your book entries. I don't know yet if you're in the black or the red, but what I do know, you need a new computer." Tyler made a face like he'd been told he needed a root canal. Jamie caught it. "You just need a decent laptop," he said. "We can get one under $1,000 at Walmart. It's not a big deal." Tyler smirked. "We?" Jamie stood, folding his arms. "Yeah, we. Unless you know what kind to get without me." The smirk vanished. "That's what I thought." Jamie grabbed his keys from the table. "I'm heading to the truck stop for lunch and a break. Meet me at Walmart at 1:30. Text me when you get there. Computers are in the back, center section." "Yes, sir," Tyler said with a mock salute. Jamie rolled his eyes. "Idiot." He stepped past him, brushing the screen door open with his shoulder, letting it slam behind him. The humid afternoon wrapped around him like a wet blanket as he walked to his car. Back in the house, Tyler stood alone in the old dining room, looking at the frozen spreadsheet on the screen. The entry box blinked slowly, like a tired eye waiting to close. He scratched the back of his neck. "We." That word hadn't sounded so bad. Chapter 7. Seeds and Sows. Jamie wasn't sure exactly when the shift had happened. Maybe sometime between entering invoice number 113 and 114. But what had started as a reluctant consult quickly evolved into a full-on partnership. No longer just an outsider making an assessment, Jamie had quietly become part of the heartbeat of the farm. In just over a week, he'd brought order to a near disaster. The new laptop made a world of difference, responsive and running an updated version of Excel that didn't freeze every time he hit save. The invoices were sorted, entries logged, spreadsheets balanced.
The house even looked marginally better, as Jamie slowly cleared space on the table and introduced Tyler to the idea of labeled folders. Tyler mostly kept his distance, respecting Jamie's space and gratefully watching the chaos shrink. It surprised Jamie how well they began to function together. Tyler was in noticeably better spirits, lighter now that the weight of financial chaos was lifting. There was even the occasional whistle under his breath. He worked the farm with more energy, more purpose, and Jamie had to admit it. It was nice having someone depend on him for something real. It felt grounding. That Friday, Jamie called Tyler in for a sit-down. He was reviewing the latest figures, cross-checking expenses against projected revenue when Tyler appeared in the doorway, wiping his hands on a red. "You wanted me?" Jamie gestured to the chair next to him. "Yeah, come take a look." Tyler sat. Close, too close. His shoulder pressed into Jamie's. Their knees bumped. Jamie tensed for half a second, then didn't move. He told himself it was fine, professional, efficient, nothing more. He could smell the sun and earth on Tyler's skin. It did things to his focus he didn't appreciate. Jamie cleared his throat. The good news is, the farm's solvent, for now. We're not drowning. But the bad news is, we're about one failed crop away from collapse. Tyler turned toward him, brows knit. "We?" Jamie blinked, then gave a half smile. "Well, you. No, actually, we. I work here now, so yeah, we." Tyler smiled then, a big, unguarded, lopsided grin. Jamie's stomach did somersaults, and his brain shorted out for just a second. "So," Jamie pushed on, "we need to build up a reserve. If there's a drought, or flood, or if prices crash, we need a cushion, a buffer that keeps us afloat." Tyler looked puzzled. "That makes sense, but how do we do that? I've been scraping by for years. There's never been extra." Jamie leaned in slightly, laptop balanced between them. "I know, but we make extra. Here's how." He clicked through a spreadsheet, highlighting fields on a map overlay. "South fields? Too much corn. Switch to soy next season. Is rotating properly and soy's pulling a better price right now. That's our start. Then we take any profit above your operating margin and invest it in futures. Low risk stuff, and we don't touch it. That money stays there, builds a small reserve. It's not fast, but it's safe." Tyler nodded slowly. "Okay. And the hogs?" "We're nowhere near full capacity with the hogs. If we start an aggressive breeding program, hold on to more sows, sell mostly barrows, we can grow the herd without major expense. Within 2 years, that side of the business will double its revenue. Then you'll have real flexibility." Tyler sat back and just stared at him. "What?" Jamie asked, suddenly self-conscious. "You're amazing," Tyler said quietly. Jamie gave a sheepish shrug. "I'm not. I just went to college and paid attention in class." Tyler shook his head. "No, it's more than that. I've had folks give me advice before, but no one's ever actually understood this place. You get it. You see it like I do, just clearer." Jamie didn't know what to say to that. The silence between them stretched a moment too long. Tyler stood and stretched, then nodded toward the kitchen. "Come on, walk me out." Jamie followed him to the back door. They stepped out onto the porch, the sun starting to slant gold across the fields. The cicadas had begun their afternoon chorus, and the air smelled like hay and honeysuckle. Jamie wanted to hug Tyler, desperately. He didn't know when it had crept in, this quiet longing, but now it sat squarely in his chest, demanding attention. For a moment, they just stood there, close again. Jamie wondered if Tyler felt it too. Instead of leaning in, Jamie stuck out his hand. Professional, safe. They shook. As their palms met, Jamie felt the usual. That stupid electricity that refused to die, no matter how much he told himself to ignore it. Tyler held on a second longer than necessary. His eyes met Jamie's thoughtful. Jamie stepped away first. "See you Monday," he said, heading toward his car. "Yeah," Tyler replied softly. "Monday." Jamie drove off feeling good. He had a sense of accomplishment after wrangling a financial mess into something functional. But more importantly, for the first time in a long while, he didn't dread going back. Chapter 8. The One That Got Away. Saturday morning dawned warm and bright, with just a hint of humidity in the air. Jamie had packed a light bag and left it by the door the night before, too excited to sleep properly.
By the time Owen pulled up in his sleek black SUV, Jamie was already sitting on the porch steps, coffee in hand.
"Hey, handsome," Owen called with a grin, stepping out and popping the trunk. Jamie tossed his bag in and climbed into the passenger seat.
They headed south, toward a quiet lake halfway to Indianapolis, nestled between thick woods and cornfields that stretched forever. The playlist was a mix of indie pop and old classics, and Jamie found himself talking easily, telling Owen about the nightmare of the farm's financial records and the minor miracle he'd managed to pull off. Owen listened attentively, nodding and smiling. "You're kind of a badass, you know that?" Jamie laughed, a little flustered. "I just don't like chaos, that's all." They got to the lake just before noon. It was a small, no-frills spot with a rustic bait shop, a wooden dock, and a row of dented aluminum boats for rent. Jamie picked out a pair of oars while Owen gathered fishing gear in the cooler. Out on the water, it was hot, and within 20 minutes, Jamie had pulled his shirt off, rowing slowly and steadily toward the center of the lake. Owen followed suit, tugging his own tee over his head and revealing a lean, trim body dusted with freckles.
"Here," Owen said, tossing the sunscreen to Jamie. "Get my back?"
Jamie smirked.
"Sure."
There was something intimate in the simple gesture, his hands smoothing lotion across warm skin, the silence filled only by water slapping against the hull and the soft buzz of insects. Afterward, Jamie leaned back on the bench at the bow, watching Owen cast and recast, even though the fish weren't biting. Lunch was simple: cold sandwiches, chips, and a couple of apples. They floated lazily, letting the sun bake into their bones. For a while, it felt like summer vacation, a pause button on real life. But by mid-afternoon, the sky began to shift. A thick gray wall loomed in the distance, and a low rumble of thunder rolled across the lake. Jamie pointed. "We need to head back." Owen frowned. "We've got time, don't we?" Jamie raised an eyebrow. "Metal boat, middle of a lake, fishing rods. What do you think?" They both laughed, but Jamie didn't wait. He gripped the oars and turned the boat around, rowing quickly and efficiently toward shore as the wind picked up. They reached the dock just as the first fat drops began to fall. By the time they got the gear stowed and climbed into the SUV, the downpour had begun in earnest. Dinner was at a cozy steakhouse just outside the city. It wasn't fancy, but the food was excellent. The kind of place with worn leather boots and waitresses who called you hun. They slid a bottle of wine, ate too much, and laughed through dessert. Back at Owen's, they settled into the couch with a movie neither of them had seen. It was comfortable and easy. But as Jamie lay beside Owen that night, the ceiling fan spinning lazily overhead, he realized the difference between comfort and connection. Owen was sweet, thoughtful, and attractive, but Jamie's body didn't hum when they touched. There wasn't that strange magnetic pull he felt every time Tyler came within 3 feet of him. On Sunday morning, over coffee and cinnamon rolls, Owen finally said it.
"So, I've been thinking, maybe you should move in. We could make this work for real."
Jamie paused, fingers wrapped around his mug. "Owen, I like being with you. I do. But I can't just pick up and leave. My work is tied to the land, to people like Tyler." Owen's eyes narrowed just slightly at that name. "You sure it's just the work that's keeping you out there?" Jamie didn't answer right away. That's a complicated question. They talked honestly for a while longer, eventually agreeing to leave the future open-ended. No decisions, not yet.
Chapter 9. What Breaks the Storm.
Sunday afternoon shimmered with heat, the kind that made the pavement ripple and tempers wear thin. The sun still blazed over the flat Indiana fields, but dark clouds were massing in the west, stacking like bruises on the sky. Owen's SUV pulled into the truck stop lot and eased to a stop in front of the diner. The air conditioner blasted cold inside the cab, but Jamie could already feel the weight of the humidity outside pressing against the windows.
"You sure you're okay heading in like this?" Owen asked, his voice gentle, eyes searching Jamie's face.
Jamie nodded. "Yeah, I'm good." Owen leaned in, gave him a quick hug and a soft kiss on the cheek. "Call me later?" Jamie offered a half smile.
"I will."
He stepped out of the SUV and turned toward the diner doors, pausing to glance at the sky. The storm was closing in fast, a black front roiling with promise of thunder and fury. Typical Indiana summer weather,
Beautiful one moment, brutal the next. Owen pulled away, waving once before merging onto the highway. Jamie didn't notice the pickup truck idling off to the side until he heard a door slam.
Tyler.
Hey! Tyler called, jogging over, boots crunching on gravel.
Jamie froze, already wary from the weekend, but waited. When they were face to face, Tyler's voice dropped to a venomous whisper.
You let that fancy faggot have you? You know, like, up the backside?
The words hit Jamie like a slap. For a moment, he was too stunned to speak.
What the hell did you just say? Jamie asked, his voice low and shaking with fury.
Tyler's eyes narrowed, jaw tight.
You heard me.
Jamie stepped in, chest nearly touching Tyler's.
What I do with my boyfriend is none of your damn business.
They stared each other down, electricity crackling in the humid air, tension rising with the storm.
Why do you even care? Jamie demanded.
Tyler's lip curled. It's disgusting. Jamie's breath caught, heart hammering in his chest. Screw you, Tyler.
No, Tyler spat. Screw you, Jamie.
Jamie's fist clenched, white-knuckled. He was a split second away from breaking something, like Tyler's face maybe, when the diner door flew open behind them.
Boys! Dottie's voice cracked through the air like a whip.
She marched out onto the pavement, one hand on her hip, her gray curls bobbing with every step. She moved between them like a shield.
You'd better take this conversation off my property right this minute. This is a family place.
Neither man budged. Jamie's face was blotched red, veins bulging in his neck. Tyler looked ready to spit nails, his jaw working with the effort not to explode. Dottie took a breath, planted her feet.
Tyler Jones, get in that truck and drive.
Tyler didn't move at first. Then he blinked, something faltering in his expression. He backed away a single step.
Jamie, get inside, and not another word from either of you.
Tyler turned, slammed his door hard enough to rattle the frame, and peeled out with a shriek of burning rubber, gravel spitting from the tires as he tore down the lot. Jamie stared after him, chest heaving, then turned and walked stiffly through the diner and into the kitchen. The storm inside him was louder than the one moving across the fields. He threw himself into the work, grabbing a stack of dirty pots and slamming them down near the sink. The metal clanged in protest. Steam from the dish machine rose around him, but it couldn't mask the tears that stung his eyes. A loud crack of thunder shook the building. From the dining room, Cindy yelped. The lights flickered once, twice, then died, plunging the kitchen into a dim, stuffy twilight. Jamie stood still for a moment, hands shaking, jaw clenched. Then he dropped the dish in his hands and bolted out the back door. The rain hit him like a wall, cold and furious. Within seconds, he was drenched, clothes plastered to his skin, hair streaming water down his face. He walked into the downpour, arms at his sides, head tilted back to the sky. The first sob escaped his throat like it had been caged too long. Then another. And then he screamed. A raw, primal sound that came from somewhere deep inside, a chaos of emotions all tangled together and set loose. The storm swallowed it whole, thunder rolling in response. He stood there for what felt like an eternity, letting the rain take everything from him, all his hope, all his rage. Tyler's voice. He let it soak through his skin, into his bones, until he was hollow and trembling. The door banged open again, and Dottie appeared, wielding a giant umbrella. She grabbed Jamie by the arm and pulled him under it.
You're gonna catch your death out here, child.
Jamie didn't resist. She led him back into the steamy kitchen, dripping and shivering, his shoes squelching with every step. Cindy gave him a quick once-over.
You okay?
Jamie didn't answer. He just took a towel from the shelf, wiped off his face and arms, and moved silently to the corner where the dish rack waited.
You don't have to stay back here, Dottie said gently. You can take a minute.
Jamie shook his head.
I'd rather work.
And he did, mechanically loading trays, running hot water, scouring pans. The hum of the storm filled the background as the staff worked by lantern light. The kitchen transformed into something both primitive and familiar. For Jamie, it was grounding, simple. He didn't have to think, just scrub. The storm finally passed, leaving a washed, clean world in its wake.
The power returned with a stutter and a groan, lights flickering back to life one by one. Jamie didn't notice. He just kept working. It wasn't until the dinner rush ended and the kitchen started winding down that Dottie cornered him again. She stood with her arms crossed, watching him dry his hands.
You want to talk about what that was? Nope, Jamie said without looking at her.
She raised an eyebrow. Jamie, I've been around a long time. You don't scream into a thunderstorm like that over nothing.
Jamie's mouth twisted. It's not your problem, God.
You work for me, don't you?
He hesitated.
Yeah? Then I care. And I'll say this once. You don't let anyone talk to you like that. And especially not someone who doesn't have the balls to be honest about why he's so mad.
Jamie finally looked up, startled. Dottie's eyes were sharp. You think I don't see it? That boy's twisted up like a pretzel whenever you're near.
Jamie's voice was low, hoarse. He hates me.
No, Dottie said. He hates himself. Big difference.
Jamie didn't answer. He just nodded once and went back to work, his chest heavy with everything he couldn't say. That night, when he finally got back to the farmhouse, it was late. The roads were still wet, and steam rose from the gravel drive as he pulled in. Tyler's truck wasn't there. Jamie walked inside, left his shoes by the door, and made his way to the room he was staying in, one of the upstairs guest bedrooms with a view of the front pasture. He peeled off his damp clothes, not caring where they landed, and got into bed naked, exhausted, every muscle sore. As the ceiling fan spun lazily above him, Jamie stared into the dark. He should have been thinking about Owen, about what they'd said, about the future they hadn't decided on. But all he could see was Tyler, his jaw clenched, eyes burning, the flash of something raw and terrifying beneath the anger. Terrifying, and yet strangely magnetic. Jamie turned over and pulled the blanket to his chest, but sleep didn't come for a long time.
Chapter 10. Whiskey and Surrender.
Next morning, Jamie heard the crunch of gravel before he heard the truck engine cut. "Great," he muttered under his breath. He peeked through the bedroom window, just in time to see Tyler stumbling up the walk, shoulders hunched, boots dragging. His shirt was wrinkled and sweat stuck to his back, and he moved like he was being pushed forward by the weight of something bigger than the bottle. Jamie stayed perfectly still until the clomp of boots up the stairs was followed by a door slam. He waited a few more minutes until the house went quiet. Then he breathed again. He changed into some old jeans and a worn-out t-shirt, the kind he didn't mind getting caked in pig shit, and went down to the kitchen. The air was thick and still, the stale scent of booze clinging to everything. He put on a pot of coffee and fried a couple eggs. He didn't eat much, especially when he had to tiptoe around. When the knock came on the back door, he knew it was Luis and Mike. "Where's Tyler?" Mike asked, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. The morning heat was already unbearable.
Jamie shrugged. He's not feeling great. I can help you with the hogs.
They gave each other a look, but didn't question it. It had been a while since Jamie worked a livestock shift, but he knew how. Muscle memory came back fast. He threw slop, scooped stalls, and coaxed stubborn hogs into pens. His boots were coated in shit and mud by mid-morning, but he didn't mind. After he showered, he walked out to get the mail from the rusted box at the end of the drive. The gravel crunched beneath his boots as he returned with a handful of envelopes and ads. He glanced up and caught his breath. Tyler was at the upstairs window, staring down at him. Jamie didn't stop walking, didn't wave, didn't even let his expression change. He just kept going.
Why the hell am I even doing this? He muttered.
He told himself it was duty. He had signed a contract. It was a job. But that wasn't the whole truth, and he knew it. That extra part, the part he didn't want to name, was way messier. For 2 days, they danced around each other like ghosts. Jamie worked the farm. Tyler stayed upstairs, or else staggered around in half silence, his eyes red and glassy. Jamie thought about leaving more than once, just throwing his duffel in the truck and driving off. He nearly did, until the third morning, when he opened the old file cabinet in the mudroom to look for a screwdriver and found a half-empty bottle of Jack Daniels wedged between 2 manila folders.
His heart dropped.
Later that same day, he found another bottle tucked behind a sack of flour in the pantry. He stared at it like it might bite him. A sense of unease settled low in his stomach. He was still holding the second bottle, standing in the middle of the kitchen, when the back door creaked open and Tyler walked in.
"Hands off my whiskey, you little punk," Tyler growled.
Jamie turned. Tyler's eyes were bloodshot and rimmed with exhaustion. His face was sunburned and unshaven. He looked worn down to the bone. He lunged, but Jamie sidestepped, calm as he could, and handed over the bottle.
Tyler snatched it and narrowed his eyes.
"Why are you still here?"
Jamie took a breath.
"You hired me. I'm under contract."
Tyler let out a bitter laugh and lunged again.
This time he grabbed a fistful of Jamie's shirt, yanking him forward until they were nose to nose.
"I want you out. You hear?"
Jamie could smell the whiskey on his breath, heavy and stale.
"I want you out."
Tyler looked at him glassy-eyed, swaying from side to side. His balance faltered, and, in the tangle of limbs and momentum, they crashed to the floor. Jamie hit hard, Tyler's weight knocking the wind out of him.
He braced, waiting for a punch or worse. Instead, Tyler clutched at him, buried his face against Jamie's neck, and let out a broken sob.
"I want you," he whispered. "God, I want you."
Jamie went still. He understood now. It hadn't been rage behind Tyler's eyes. It had been desperation and shame. Tyler tried to kiss him, but Jamie turned his head, slid out from under him, and sat upright beside him. Tyler collapsed face down on the floor, burying his head in his hands. The noises coming from him were small and painful.
"What the hell, Tyler?"
Tyler didn't move, but he spoke, voice muffled.
"I've wanted you for so long, Jamie. Since high school.
I teased you because you made me so goddamn mad. You were so pretty, so easy with yourself. And I couldn't have that, couldn't want it. Not with my dad. Not in this place."
Jamie sat there, stunned. He felt 1,000 things all at once.
Tyler rolled onto his back, eyes staring up at the ceiling.
"I'm an idiot. You keep calling me one, and it's true."
Jamie stood slowly. "I don't know what to do with any of this."
"Please don't go," Tyler whispered. "Please."
Jamie wasn't equipped for breakdowns, for drunken confessions, for decades of repressed feelings and self-loathing. But he did know two people who might be. He reached for his phone.
"I'm calling some folks," he said. "You're not alone. But this is bigger than me."
He got a hold of Dottie at the truck stop and told her everything. Dottie listened quietly, then said,
"Mark and I'll be there in 10.
When they arrived, Mark walked into the living room like he'd been there before. He was a longtime member of the Clooney AA meeting, and he knew the look of a man who'd hit bottom. He knelt by Tyler's chair, spoke low and even. Jamie didn't catch most of the words, but he saw Tyler's expression shift from defiance to surrender.
Tyler nodded.
When it was time to go, he stood on unsteady legs.
"Jamie?"
Jamie looked up from the kitchen sink.
"I'm sorry," Tyler said, voice raw. Jamie nodded. "Just get better."
"I will." As Dottie and Mark helped Tyler into the truck, Jamie turned back to the kitchen. He poured the last of the whiskey into the sink and watched it swirl down the drain. He had a farm to take care of, and maybe, just maybe, something worth holding on to. Do you know someone in recovery, or someone who could use some recovery? Maybe you've been where Tyler is now in the story? Some of us have. Share your own experience in the comments. We'd love to know.
Chapter 11. Just today.
The sunrise over the Clooney farmland wasn't anything spectacular, just a pale smear of orange outlining the humidity rising off the fields, but Jamie stood on the front porch with his coffee, watching it anyway. It was quiet without the rumble of Tyler's boots, without the cursing that usually came when the tractor didn't start, or the early morning clatter in the kitchen. Too quiet, maybe, but peaceful, too. With Tyler gone to treatment for a month, the farm was Jamie's now, at least in practice, and he'd stepped up to the plate. Every morning, he was out with Luis and Mike slopping hogs and mucking out the pens, checking feed, watching for signs of illness. They seemed grateful to have him running the show. respected him even. And when he'd asked what they thought could be improved, they hadn't hesitated to offer ideas. Jamie took notes.
Inside the house, things were finally starting to feel like someone gave a damn. He'd called in a deep cleaning crew, Sarah and Kelsey, 2 women from town who knew the meaning of elbow crease. The place looked like it had shed 20 years of grime and disuse. Then, with all the furniture shoved into the corner of the living room, Jamie had gone room to room with a paint ruler. The fresh coat of soft cream and pale sage made it feel like a place someone could live, not just crash in. New curtains, a desk in the corner for an office, the old oak dining table centered again with matching chairs around it like the room was meant for Sunday dinners and conversation. Literal window dressing, sure, but the metaphor wasn't lost on Jamie. He needed the change on the outside to get his insides sorted. He'd been working at breakneck pace, taking over the farm, quitting the truck stop, telling Dottie face-to-face over a cup of her strong coffee. She'd looked a little disappointed, but nodded like she understood. Then he'd driven down to Indianapolis, sat across from Owen at a coffee shop they used to go to, and broke things off. Owen had taken it better than Jamie expected. Sad, but not surprised. And now, 10 days into the month, the whirlwind was over. The house was in order, the farm was holding steady, the books were balanced, and Jamie had even hired a tax lawyer to go over the long-term plans he and Tyler had only ever half discussed. Everything was ready, but there was no one to show it to. He sat on the front porch, sipping his now lukewarm coffee, and the thoughts crept in like rising fog. What if Tyler came back and told him to leave? What if the drinking started up again? What if he came back and told Jamie they were just boss and employee now, and Tyler was ready to date someone else? Or worse, what if Tyler didn't come back at all? Jamie had known about Tyler's mom running off. Hell, everyone in town knew. Gone with some slick-haired drunk from the next county and never looked back. Jamie had been in college when Tyler's dad passed. It had been sudden, heart attack. Just like that, Tyler was alone with a failing farm and a chip on his shoulder the size of Indiana. Jamie thought about all of that and tried to imagine how he would have turned out under the same circumstances. Tyler might have been a jerk sometimes, but he'd kept the place going. Somehow. And now Jamie was keeping it warm for him. But was that all he was doing? The quiet pressed in heavy, and Jamie stood up, grabbed his truck keys off the hook, and drove into town. The lunch rush had just cleared out at the truck stop. Dottie was wiping down menus when Jamie walked in. She looked up and smiled like she'd been expecting him. "Booth in the corner?" she asked, already turning toward the far side of the diner. He nodded and slid in across from her, hands clasped tight in his lap. "I've got a few what-ifs," he said without preamble, voice low. She raised an eyebrow, but didn't interrupt. "What if he tells me to leave? What if he doesn't come back? What if it's all for nothing?" Dottie listened, eyes steady, the same way she'd listened to truckers and drifters and broken-hearted locals for years. When he finished, she reached out and laid her hand over his. "Well, hon, all of those things could happen," she said gently. "But first off, I know you'll be fine no matter what. You've got grit, Jamie. You've shown it." He blinked, not expecting that. "And of course," she went on, "you've always got a job here if you want it. But between you and me, word's getting around. Folks are starting to talk about what you've done out there at Tyler's." Jamie looked up sharply. "They are?" "Oh, yeah," Dottie said, grinning. "Josh Connor came in yesterday, asked about you. Said he could use help with the books." Jamie's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "Seriously?" "But that don't fix your heart," Dottie added, tone softening. "Look, I know you've got it bad for Tyler. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. That's just how life is. But if it don't, that don't mean you're done. It just means the story goes a different direction." Jamie stared down at the Formica table, a little stunned. "But that hasn't happened yet," she said firmly, "and it might never. You know, sometimes I just have to do today and quit worrying about what might happen tomorrow." She chuckled and winked. "Works more often than not." Jamie let out a long breath and leaned back in the booth. "Thanks, Dottie." "Anytime, sweetheart." And for the first time in days, Jamie felt a little less alone. Chapter 12. Hot Damn.
The gravel crackled under Mark's tires as the truck eased to a stop in front of the farmhouse. From the outside, not much had changed, and for a brief moment, Tyler felt a surge of relief. The white clapboard siding still peeled slightly along the eaves. The same sag in the porch rail he'd meant to fix for years was still there, and the big tree out front, his tree, still reached its wide arms toward the second-story window where his mother once stood and screamed at him to get down. He chuckled, but the sound was hollow. That memory hit like a bittersweet wave, his little boy self clinging to the branches, proudly waving down at her like a king surveying his kingdom. He could still see her hand pressed to her chest, that flash of worry and love all tangled together in her face. Then came the darker ones. His dad, shoulders hunched, walking into the barn the day she left and never came back. Not a word, just the echo of muffled sobs through the slats of the barn walls. And that one Christmas when his father handed him the keys to an old pickup he'd fixed up just for him. It was Tyler's first truck, a moment of pure, honest pride in both their eyes. So rare, so fleeting. "Damn it," Tyler muttered under his breath. "You okay?" Mark asked, eyes scanning him. Tyler blinked hard and nodded. Yeah, just home, you know?" Mark gave a small smile. "Well, here we are." Tyler turned to him, eyes glossy. "Thanks, Mark. I mean it, for everything. I wouldn't have made it without you." Mark's face softened.
Just glad you're back in one piece. And 30 days clean, don't forget that part. I haven't. Not for a second.
The screen door creaked open. Jamie stepped onto the porch, squinting into the sun, hand shading his eyes.
Welcome home, stranger, he called out, then broke into a smile that nearly knocked the breath out of Tyler's lungs.
God, he looked good. Sun-kissed and steady, a little paint smudged near his temple, like he'd been halfway through some project. Tyler's heart skipped a beat. Jamie stepped down, casual as ever, and grabbed one of Tyler's duffel bags. "Let me help you with that."
Thanks, Tyler said, voice thick. I'll be back at 5, Mark said, tapping his wristwatch. Meetings at 5:30, and dinner after if you're up for it. Yeah, okay, thanks again.
Jamie offered his hand. "Really, Mark? Thanks for everything." Mark shook it firmly. "Just keep him on the straight and narrow."
I'll try.
With a wave, Mark climbed into his truck and rolled down the drive, leaving the two of them standing in the thick afternoon heat, bags in hand and history hanging heavy between them. Tyler turned toward the house. The porch steps creaked just the same. The screen door still had that whine as it opened, but once he stepped inside, he froze. The walls were freshly painted, light sage, just like his mom used to love. The old lace curtains were replaced with ones that were warm, golden, and linen soft. The dining room table gleamed with polish, set like someone might sit down for supper any minute now. It was like stepping into a memory, only one someone had cleaned up and made kinder somehow.
Jamie, he started, voice cracking.
Jamie turned to him, but Tyler couldn't finish. The emotion lodged in his throat like a stone. "It looks great," he finally managed. Like when I was a kid." He didn't say back when Mom and Dad were together, but Jamie heard it anyway. It was in the way Tyler's fingers grazed the corner of the table, like he was touching a ghost. Jamie stepped back, giving him space.
Thought it might make it easier. Coming back, I mean.
"It helps," Tyler said quietly. And then, almost to himself, "More than you know." Jamie hesitated for a beat. "You want to get settled? Your room's the same. I didn't touch anything up there." "Yeah," Tyler said, suddenly tired, the emotional weight of the day setting in. "Thanks." He picked up his bags and headed for the stairs. Jamie watched him go, something tight clenching in his chest. Tyler stood alone in his old bedroom, the late afternoon light slanting across the floor. Everything was familiar. The worn wood of the bed frame, the poster of the Colts he'd tacked up in high school, the faint scent of cedar and dust. But he was not the same boy who had left this room in a drunken rage. He was 30 days clean, 30 days raw, and unsure what came next. His hands trembled just slightly as he unpacked, each shirt a reminder of who he used to be and who he hoped he could become. Downstairs, Jamie moved quietly through the kitchen. He caught his reflection in the microwave and sighed. There was hope now, sure, but there was fear too. Tyler was fragile. Recovery wasn't linear. Jamie knew enough to be cautious. He didn't know how to help, or even if Tyler wanted help. After all, 30 days of therapy couldn't undo a lifetime of running, drinking, pushing people away. He picked up his phone and called Mark.
Yeah, Mark said.
He's going to be like that for a while. Just give him time. Don't push. And for God's sake, Jamie, if he drinks again, call me.
Jamie stared at the staircase, his jaw tightening. Yeah, okay, I will.
The next morning, Jamie walked Tyler through everything he'd done while he was gone: finances, legal consultations, the projected yields for the corn and soybeans, even a new digital filing system for invoices and supply orders.
Tyler nodded, mumbled thanks, but his eyes kept drifting toward the window like he was watching something far off on the horizon. After that, Jamie gave him space. Space to wander, to sit alone under the tree out front, to disappear into the barn for hours. Tyler didn't say much, but he didn't drink either, and that had to count for something.
Mark called regularly to check in, and each time Jamie reported the same.
He's quiet, withdrawn, not really himself.
That's normal, Mark assured him. He's got some deep work to do. He's digging around in places he's avoided for years.
Let him. So Jamie let him, and slowly Tyler began to come back to himself. It started with small things like trimming the hedges out front, and finally fixing the seat on the old John Deere.
Then came longer conversations at breakfast, and the occasional sarcastic jab that sounded just like the old Tyler. Little glimpses of light, a moment at a time. One Wednesday afternoon, the late summer sun poured through the dining room windows, casting long golden rays across the hardwood floor. Jamie sat at his small desk, scanning contracts on the corn harvester lease. Tyler stood beside him, arms folded, peering over his shoulder at the screen. "Looks good to me," he said, and stretched.
Jamie nodded.
"Just got to confirm with the supplier and we're set."
Tyler turned like he was about to walk off, but then stopped. He stood still for a second, then shoved his hands into his pockets and fidgeted with the keys and loose change.
"Hey, Jamie," he said, suddenly very still.
Jamie glanced up, expected.
Tyler stared at the floor. "I was wondering."
Jamie waited.
Are you still seeing that guy in Indy?" he asked, his voice low and strangely shy.
Jamie blinked, surprised. "No, I broke it off."
"Oh." Tyler shifted from foot to foot.
Why? Jamie looked at him more closely now. Because it wasn't what I wanted.
Tyler nodded slowly. Then, looking like he was about to bolt out the window, he mumbled, "Would you want to go out with me?"
"Maybe?"
Jamie's heart stopped for a second, then kicked back into gear like it had been waiting 30 days for just that question. "Tyler," he said, his voice soft, "I would love to go out with you." You would?" Tyler lit up like someone had flicked on every light in the room. "Saturday night for dinner?" he asked, barely containing the grin. "Yes, it's a date. I look forward to it."
Tyler let out a sharp, unfiltered yelp and did a little jump.
Hot damn.
He turned on his heel and practically danced his way back to the mudroom to grab his boots for the afternoon chores, whistling some tune Jamie didn't recognize.
Jamie sat back in his chair, laughing under his breath.
"Idiot," he said fondly, shaking his head. Chapter 13. Harvest Moon.
Saturday night came soft and golden, thick with the warmth of late summer. The fields around the farmhouse were breathing out the last of the heat, fireflies blinking in the hedgerows like the sky had spilled stars down into the grass. Inside the house, Tyler stood in front of the mirror, buttoning the collar on his cleanest shirt, a deep blue chambray that brought out the color in his eyes. He took a breath, checked his reflection, and ran a hand through his hair. Jamie, down the hall, was doing much the same, except without the nerves Tyler was trying hard to mask. Jamie always had a calm way about him, but even he had spent a moment longer choosing a shirt, deciding finally on a white cotton button-down, with sleeves rolled up just so, clean jeans, boots polished. He wanted tonight to be simple, but meaningful. The steakhouse wasn't anything fancy. Clooney didn't do fancy. It sat just off the interstate, with a gravel parking lot and neon sign that buzzed in the dusk. Inside, though, the place had charm. Dark wooden booths with high partitions gave a sense of privacy. Each table had a checkered cloth and a flickering electric kerosene lamp that gave off a soft amber glow. They slid into a booth across from each other, and for a few minutes they were just two guys studying menus, chatting casually about the farm and who'd called that week. They ordered their steaks and passed on wine without even glancing at the list, opting for Coke and root beer instead. Once the waitress left, Tyler sat back and looked around. "I used to come here with my dad," he said quietly.
Same booth, I think. He used to order liver and onions, no matter how much I complained about the smell.
Jamie smiled gently.
Sounds like a man who knew what he liked.
Tyler nodded. Then he exhaled slowly, as if bracing himself. "Jamie, I want to talk about something. About everything, really."
Jamie didn't interrupt. He just leaned forward slightly, listening.
I've been doing a lot of work on myself. The kind of work you can't fake. Group therapy, one-on-one, writing things out, saying things out loud I never thought I could. Looking at all the stuff I buried. About my mom, my dad, what I learned about being a man, what I learned about hiding.
Jamie's eyes didn't waver.
I drank because I was ashamed of who I was, what I wanted. I drank because it was easier than feeling anything, easier than saying I was lonely or that I was scared.
There was a long pause. Tyler's hands were folded together on the table, knuckles pale.
I'm sorry, he said, for the way I treated you, for pushing you away, for making you feel like you weren't wanted when you were all I could think about.
Jamie reached across the table, placed his hand on Tyler's. Warm, solid.
Tyler?
But Tyler held up a hand, just for a second more. I know saying sorry is easy, but I'm gonna make it up to you. Actions speak louder than words. You'll see, you deserve someone who loves and cherishes you. I want to be that someone. Jamie squeezed his hand. You already are, Tyler. You just don't know it yet. Their eyes locked. Years of tension and longing gave way to something far simpler, the quiet of being seen and accepted. The moment broke as the waitress arrived with dessert. 2 generous slices of peach pie topped with scoops of slowly melting vanilla ice cream. She poured coffee for both of them and moved on, none the wiser about the shift in the air between them. They ate in silence for a few minutes, the sweetness grounding them, a soft landing after the emotional altitude of the conversation. On the drive home, the sky had turned cobalt, and the first stars were pushing through. They rode in easy silence, music low on the radio. As they turned onto the gravel drive, Jamie slowed the truck.
"Look," he said. "There, rising over the cornfield was a full harvest moon. It hung low and huge on the horizon, milky orange and luminous, casting long shadows across the rows of corn." Tyler stepped out of the truck and stood by the porch, staring. Jamie joined in. "It's beautiful," Tyler said, almost in awe. "Yeah," Jamie whispered, "it is."
The air was still. The only sounds were crickets in the grass. Tyler turned toward Jamie. "Come here."
Jamie stepped close. Tyler took his hand, held it, and then, slowly, lifted his other hand to Jamie's face. He cupped his cheek, his thumb brushing lightly over the stubble there, his heart pounding. "Can I?" Tyler asked, voice low. Jamie nodded. Their lips met in a kiss that started tentative, cautious, and then melted into something deeper. It was a kiss full of memory and forgiveness, of hope and heat, of the long road between them finally shortening. When they pulled apart, Jamie was smiling. Tyler wrapped him in his arms, pressing Jamie against his chest, resting his cheek against Jamie's hair. He held on like a man finally letting go of a lifetime of hurt. The moon rose higher behind them, bathing the farmhouse in light. Everything was in its right place. They were home. Thanks for watching and listening to our story of Jamie and Tyler. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let us know what touched you. We love hearing from you. And don't forget to subscribe for more amazing love stories.